How much are the bailouts really costing us? No one really knows. And I attempt to figure out what it really cost us in 2008, 2009 to overcome what almost was one of the greatest recessions. It was a great recession, but it could have been a depression. And we still don't know whether or not we're going to have a double dip in the United States. And why should you know that? Because so goes the United States, so goes the world. The wisdom of the founding fathers of the United States of America, what do you think it was? Limited government. You would think if you heard the Obama administration today that the federal government created the states. No, the states created the federal government. And the biggest debate we're going to have in the next 10 years started by Congressman Paul Ryan with his budget proposal for fiscal year 2012, and that's September 30th, 2012. What do you think we debated on Friday? That wasn't the budget for 2012. That was the continuing resolution because we have no budget for 2011. So a CR is just limping along. How much more do we need to get by another 2 weeks, 3 weeks? That's the biggest issue Obama and his party has to face in the next election. Why, when you controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House, did you not pass a budget for 2011? Where's your fiscal responsibility? So here we have, this year's not over yet. The debt ceiling's coming up. Fiscal year 2012 budget, the alarm now has been sounded by Congressman Ryan that that budget is going to include a vision for the next 10 years, including what the President's own debt commission, bipartisan debt commission on fiscal responsibility and national debt, Chairman Bowles and Chairman Simpson, two great senators, put forth a plan that the administration did not adopt even in their 2012 budget, which is out already. That's going to be a big, big debate. Why is this important? We got to bend the curve in America of this national debt, which is going one way up. Because if you don't, what's going to happen? Interest on the national debt will overtake all discretionary spending in 5 to 10 years. Why? Interest has never been as low as it is now. Because the Fed has forced interest rates all the way down, and we've put Treasury notes and Treasury bills on a short-term leash. Much of that is 1, 2, or 3-year bills, no longer 10-year notes. So as soon as interest rates go back up, it's going to be felt immediately in the budget of the United States of America. And you know what the Fed has done to keep us out of a depression? Force those interest rates down to practically zero. So that's where the interest comes from. But guess what's happening? Look at the price of cotton last year. Double, $1.90 a pound. Look at oil. It's not just inflation. I know there's some disruption in the Mideast and whatnot, but look at what's going on with inflation. So very soon the Fed's going to have to come off this quantitative easing, and it's probably going to be by June, and you watch those interest rates go up. God forbid they go where Jimmy Carter had them, with stagflation, 21% prime rate. But you can be sure, I guarantee you, that in 5 to 10 years those interest rates will be somewhere between 7 and 12%. And then you're going to see interest on what they're projecting to be $20 trillion in bonded debt. I'm not talking off the books. $20 trillion by 2017. It's $15 trillion by the end of this fiscal year. So calculate at the bottom, 7, 8% on that, and you're talking about trillions of dollars, $1 trillion at least. We can't afford that. And the world can't afford it. So goes the United States, so goes the world. The world GDP, gross domestic product. What is that? That's all the economic activity in the world and by country. $60 trillion in the world. What is it per person worldwide? 9,000. Now look at the United States. $15 trillion. That is, this year, our GDP by the end of 2011. So the United States has 1/4 of the sum of economic activity in the world. And look at, we have the highest per person GDP. That's 46,400. Look at China. 5.5 trillion, just past Japan, as you know. And I interpolated that number because they only had it going back to 2008, 2009. So now China is just ahead of Japan. But look at China. Only 3,300 a person because of the size of its population. And then you see the growth by country. Look at China, 10.9%. Look at India, 8.7%, because they're now trying to boost their internal economy as well as their export economy. But look at the United States, only 2.4, but they say that might go up if we don't go into a double dip. They were expecting it by now to be somewhere around 3%. But the world is kind of skewed upwards by what's going on in India and China. So, we've got now emerging issues. We have a European debt crisis. Greece was the first one. We're worried about Greece that has had 150% of its gross domestic product in debt. Now, if you add, well, take 15 trillion, first of all. 15 trillion in debt, sounds familiar? 15 trillion in GDP. The United States is already at 100% of its GDP in bonded debt. But that's the good news. Guess what the bad news is? Actuaries have computed, as they have for General Electric, General Motors, they got to do it every year on their audited financial statements, they have computed the unfunded pension liabilities for the United States of America. 8 trillion for Social Security, off the books, not in the trust fund, nowhere to be found, has to be raised, and guess what? The big one. That's why you're going to see a big debate over the next 10 years to bend this curve down. 37 trillion in Medicare, Parts A, Parts B, and the prescription drug Part D, which could bankrupt us itself. 37 plus 8, 45. Add 15, 60 trillion. I could say now let's add for government-sponsored enterprises, which are off the books, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation. I'm not going to do that. And I could say let's put the pensions for civil service and military. They're not funded either, off the books. Let's stay at 60 trillion. Someone said it's closer to 100 trillion. 60 trillion. 4 times the GDP of the United States of America. At what point do we start focusing on the fact that the national debt is becoming so onerous that just the interest on it is going to kill America? So what does that tell you? There needs to be a shared responsibility. We need a leader. I can tell you this. The United States, between the Congress and Obama, lacks leadership. But what are the other things that we face? Not only the European debt crisis, this U.S. budget crisis. Do not discount the effect that this debate is going to have on the rest of the world.